So when I was, I don't even know how old, I was in Eretz Yisrael, and my brother got sick for the second time. Right? He had cancer once, and then he got cancer again. He re-upped it. I don't know why. It was a stupid move, but he was like, yeah. No, I'm joking. Okay. So he got it again. Now, it was right after. Shemaim, he just texted me that I can say the story. I was going for it anyway. It was right after. It was right after the summer, and it was getting closer to Chagim, and they figured out that whatever they were doing, whatever chemo, whatever they did the first time, isn't working. The second time around, it was a little more aggressive. It wasn't working. So they decided they're going to go for what was then this very groundbreaking new research. They're going to go for stem cell treatments. But in order to do that, they had to keep him in the hospital for about 3 weeks straight. Now, Khalila, no one should ever know about being in a hospital at all. But if you know somebody or whatever that has been to stay there and not be allowed outside and barely be allowed to have any visitors, because the whole concept of keeping him in quarantine was that whatever this process is that they do, it robs you of every antibody, everything that you have to protect yourself. So you couldn't go see him if you had a sniffle. You couldn't go see him in nothing. So he was basically quarantined to this tiny little room. The only break he would get was for about 5 minutes in the elevator going down to like radiation, great break, and then coming back up. That was the time that he would like leave the room. So it was coming closer to the Chagim. It's a long story. I'm not going to get into how it happened, but it was getting closer to the Chagim. It was already Sukkos, and I knew that over Sukkos, my parents were going to have to come and be there the whole time with him. And so for him and his sanity, I said that's not going to happen. That'll drive him crazy. Imagine being alone in a room for an entire Simchas Torah with just Simchas Torah and Rest of Sukkot, just with your parents. It's rough. So I said I found a way to get back home, and I came in and I told my parents, leave. I got this. And my parents left, and it was just me and my brother, and we happened to be extremely close. We were like best friends. And just in case he listens to this, I don't want him to get a big head over it. All right, and right. So I was staying with him. So it was Simchas Torah, and whatever they had just given him was the really bad stuff, and every limb of his body was on fire. Just every joint was killing him, from the top of his head to the bottom of his foot. Everything was killing him. And he was in such insane pain that we were making fun of everything the entire time. And this was already the point that even joking was already not helping. He was in such pain. And it was Simchas Torah night. And he turned to me and he's like, Yossi, you're going to have to go to shul. So I said, all right, I'll daven in the thing over here and come right back in. So he said, no. He said, it's Simchas Torah. Now, even at that point, my brother happened to have been a very impressive Talmid Chacham and an eye of Torah to the level that was way beyond him. And he said to me, he goes, you got to go. You got to go to go to shul. Go to the shul. He told me where it was. He's like, go there and please. He's like, you got to dance hakafos for me. He's like, I can't move. I can't stand up. I can't anything. Just go dance hakafos for me. He said, I'm going to try to maybe, I don't know, sit up or something, but I can't move. Go dance hakafos for me. So I said, listen, I can't leave you, this and that. We're fighting back and forth. Finally, I agree. I'm like, fine. He was really adamant. I'm like, I'll go. So I get up and I go down to 20 flights. That's why I don't want to go. Go down to 20 flights and I go to the shul. And I'm used to, I went from one hakafos to the other hakafos. So I'm used to, when I was a kid, we used to go to the Moroccan hakafos in Brooklyn, and it was a madhouse. It was unbelievable. It was incredible. It would go till who knows what time at night, and it was, not from with the front. It was the most beautiful. You saw the machshav of Torah of some of the least religious people you can imagine when they came to that. It was unreal. I went from there to dancing with my Rosh Hashiva at that time, Rav Asher, And that was also the whole yeshiva. It was a thing. Dancing with the people that you're learning with is a different level of appreciating Simchas Torah. So I went to the shul, and it was not any of that, basically. They did these 2 runarounds around the thing. It was mostly people who just had relatives in the hospital and wanted to go to shul and come right back. They did 2 runarounds around the bima, and that was it. The davening was over. And I came back with just this really low feeling. I was like, wow, I really missed the Simchas Torah this year. I didn't think about that coming out, but I missed Simchas Torah. I didn't get to really feel Simchas Torah this year. And I'm walking up these flights, and I'm feeling sorry for myself like crazy, and I'm getting more and more depressed. Finally, I come out onto my brother's floor, and I hear some nurses screaming or yelling something, and I see that they're pointing in my brother's room, and these 2 big orderly guys come running into the room. I see them running down, turn into his room. So I go running down the hallway, and I look in, and there in the middle of the room is my brother, and I don't know how to explain this exactly, but he had his IV broad thing that you would carry around with him, and he's like on it, and he's kicking his feet and flailing, like he's falling all over the place. And I turned to the orderly and I yelled, which I don't normally do. I was like, help him, pick him up. And the guy turned to me, he's like, he keeps yelling, saying no. I was like, what are you talking about? And I run up to him and I grab him and I pick him up. And he turns to me, he looks at me, and there are I've never seen my brother cry like this. The pain that was in his face was unbelievable. But he looked like a crazy person, because he had the biggest smile you've ever seen. And as I looked over, because I'm picking him up, as I looked over, I see he's holding his chumash. And I'm like, Ari, what the heck are you doing? And he goes, Hakafas. And he's crying. And I picked him up, and I tried bringing him over to the bed, and he starts fighting me. And I realized he wasn't fighting. He was trying to dance Hakafas with me. In the thing, these people must have thought we were out of our minds. Because now not only is this nutcase doing it, fine, he's on a lot of drugs, it makes sense, but the normal one showed up and is just beer hugging him and throwing him around now like an idiot. So one of them is in a backless hospital gown, the other one's in a suit and a hat, which, why? And he's just doing this. They're like, listen, let's leave him alone. I don't know, our work here is done. And they just left. But they couldn't possibly understand that the Shekhinah was in that room. It was the greatest Hakafas I ever danced in my entire life. It was the best Simchas Torah I ever had. And it taught me a lesson. That was the greatest Zman I ever had when I got back to Yeshiva after that. I got back with a different understanding of what Torah does to us, of the depth and level it brings us to, of the love affair that you can have with it. You can fall so in love with learning if you give it that chance. You can fall so in love with Torah if you give it that chance.